Hi there, my name is Glory Pence Rappan, your #1 fashion school teacher. How y'all doing? So today I'm going to be teaching you how to measure accurately. I'm going to teach you how to take measurements for the bodice block accurately, measurements for your skirt block accurately, and measurements for your sleeve block accurately. Okay, so you can take a look at my model. Have you noticed that she's putting on tight fitted clothing? Right. So the first thing you want to make sure is that your model or your client isn't wearing loose clothing. You can't wear agbada to come take your measurements. You can't wear a boo-boo to come take your measurements. You want to wear an outfit that clinges to your body just like so that our measurements will be accurately. Secondly, take note of her posture. She's standing upright with her legs together, her hands by her side, her head looking forward, eyes forward and head up. All right, so this is the correct posture for accurate body measurements. You can't lie down, you can't sit down, you can't bend, you have to stand straight just like the model is doing. Next thing you want to do is you want to make sure you're using an accurate measuring tape. Yes, it's very possible for you to buy a tape in the market and it is wrong. We have seen this happen countless of times. So make sure your tape is accurate. There are two sides to a measuring tape. You have the side in inches and you have the side in cm. Either way, either side will work just fine. Most people prefer the cm because the calibrations are way tinier as compared to the inches. So make sure you're using a flexible measuring tape just like I have here, so you can go around the curve of the body with ease and ensure the tape is accurate. So we are going to begin with the neck circumference. Now, to measure the neck circumference, you will take your tape round the neck and bring it down to the collarbone in a V, like so. So you bring it downwards to the collarbone in a V, just like so. So my model's neck circumference is 14 inches. So the next measurement we're going to take is the measurement of the shoulder width. We all know where the shoulders are. This is the shoulders. You do not take the measurement of your shoulders with your client facing forward. You would have to ask your client or your model to turn her back, right? Now, where do you place your tape and where do you end your tape on the shoulder? The edge of the shoulder here that can be palpated like the edge of a mountain or falling off a cliff of a mountain is called the acromion, right here, right? If your model is a skinny model, then it's easy to feel the acromion. But if your model is a bit plumpy, you would have to try really hard to find it. It feels like the edge of a table or the edge of a mountain, So you place your tape there and then run your tape across the back like so, like that, to the same position on the other side of the shoulders. The next measurement we're going to take is the bust circumference. You know the position of the bust, right? All right, so you're going to pass your tape round the circumference of the body, ensuring your tape passes through the apex of the bust. So why is the apex of the bust? The apex of the bust is the part of the bust that curves the most, or where you can find the nipple, right? Like the center of the breast. So make sure your tape is passing through the nipple, going round the body just like so. If you noticed, I haven't flattened the breast. If I flatten the breast, this is what it would look like. I would have tightened the tape so much that it pushes the bust in. No, I haven't done that. So you would have to release your tape. And then you don't release it so much that the tape begins to wobble or fall off from the bust. You just make sure the tape is passing right through the apex of the bust. So note the position of the tape at the back, right? The tape is aligned almost at the level or right at the level where her bra strap would be running through. Be careful not to take the bust measurement and at the back here you have your tape falling off or your tape so high up like so. No, it has to be right at the bra level. The next measurement we're going to take is the bust length. The bust length is the distance running from the highest point of the shoulder down to the apex of the bust, the apex or the nipple of the bust. Now, if you can't visually tell where the center of the bust is or the apex of the bust is, you can politely ask your client or your model to please touch her nipple, and there you know where the apex is. So the bust length is the distance from the highest point of the shoulder down to the nipple. Highest point of the shoulder because the human shoulder slopes downwards. The highest point is up here, and then as it slopes downwards, this is the lowest point of the shoulder. So you would ensure your tape is at the highest point of the shoulder, running down to the apex of the bust. The next measurement we'll take is the bust distance. The bust distance is the distance from one nipple to the other nipple, or one apex to the other apex of the bust, just like that. Be careful not to touch your client's nipple. Most people are very sensitive and jumpy, and you don't want to put anybody in such an uncomfortable position, right? So place your tape just like I'm doing without touching the nipple. So that's the bust distance. So next, you're going to take the waist circumference. Now, how do we know the position of the waist on this body? A very simple trick is to ask your client to bend on her side, the left hand side or the right hand side. Please bend on your side. Okay, now you can see the part of the body that breaks in, right? So using a reference, which could be a rope, just like I have here, I will take it round, ensuring that it passes through the part of her body that breaks in like that, and then stand straight. All right, you can see what I have there. So this rope is serving as a reference so that we can easily visualize where the waistline of my model is, right? So once again, just to confirm that we are right, please bend on your side. Now you can see that the part where her body bends in is where my rope or my reference is passing through. Please stand up straight. All right, so that is the waistline. You will take your tape round the waistline, just like I'm doing, and then you take your reading. Look closely, you'll see I have 3 fingers in the tape, right? Those 3 fingers are to provide ease to these measurements I'm taking, ease to the waistline, so it's not so tight. However, it's very important that you communicate with your client or with your model while taking the waist circumference measurements, just in case you have made it too tight or too loose. So you can kindly ask the person, how do you feel? Too tight or too loose? And then you adjust the measurement as the case may be. The next measurement we're going to take is the front bodice length. The front bodice length is the distance from the highest point of the shoulder, passing your tape through the apex of the bust down to the waistline. Once again, you see how important, or you see the importance of having a reference on the waistline. Yeah. So you place your tape from the highest point of the shoulder, running the tape through the apex of the bust down to the waistline. This is the front bodice length. Next is going to be the back bodice length. All right. To measure the back bodice length, you place your tape at the nape of the neck. The nape of the neck feels like a ball down here at the base of the neck. Place your tape there. Run your tape through center back down to the waistline. Once again, we have a reference, the white wire here serving as a reference. Yeah, so you take your tape through the center back down to the waistline. And this is the back bodice length. Now, the front bodice length is always different from the back bodice length. The front bodice length is longer than the back bodice length. Why? Because of the bust. We have the bust in front, but at the back we do not have any bust. So the front bodice will always be longer than the back bodice in the body of an adult female. In children, the case is different because they do not have bust. Hope this is clear. So the next measurement we're going to take is the arm side depth. The arm side depth is more or less the length of the armpit or the length of the armhole. So once again, I'll use a reference. I'll use this pen as a reference. So I'll insert the pen in her armpits, hands down. Alright, so that I can visually see how long the armpit is. So I'll take two measurements. The first measurement will be from the highest point of the shoulder down to the level of the armpit, and then from the tip of the shoulder or the lowest point of the shoulder down to the armpit. So I'll take my tape, place it from the highest point of the shoulder. I will run my tape to go through the apex of the bust. And using my eyes, I will take my reading. And then I will place my tape at the tip of the shoulder and bring the tape right down to the armpit. And then I will take my reading. So those are the two measurements you will take for the arm side depth. From the highest point of the shoulder down to the armpit, and from the lowest point of the shoulder down to the armpit. That is the arm side depth. So these are the following measurements we would be taking to make our skirt block. So I have a reference on the waistline here, so I can physically see the waistline. Please note, the natural waistline is high up here, not down. The natural waistline is not at the hip bone here, where most people like to wear their skirts or their pants. No, the natural waistline is up here. Now, how do you know the position to place the reference? I had said this earlier on when I taught you how to take accurate body measurements for the bodice block. You ask your client or your model to bend on the side. The part of the body that caves in, you place your reference tape there, and that is the waistline. So all skirt blocks are made with the waist at the waistline. If you want your waist to come lower, in the case of a low waist skirt, or to be worn on the hip and bone, like most people like to, you would alter the skirt block into a pattern that suits your desired choice or style of skirts. Hope this is clear. All skirt blocks are made with the waistline at the natural waistline. So hence our waistline, right? So the first measurement we'll take is the waist circumference. We'll place our tape round the waist circumference. Now, unlike the bodice block, where the bodice, a blouse or a top, has the support of the shoulder for the garment to hang on, a skirt does not have such luxury, right? The skirt's only support is the waistline. So instead of taking the waist to just be fitted or perfect, not too tight, not too loose, like we did in the bodice block, this time we are going to tighten our waist a little bit to provide enough support so our skirt does not fall off. So this is her normal waist circumference measurement, not too tight, not too loose. You can see my tape is comfortably moving left and right like so. Now, for a skirt waist circumference, I will tighten it a bit. Are you comfortable? Yeah. She's comfortable, but it's tight enough to hold the waist of the skirt so the skirt does not fall off. The next measurement we are going to take is the hip circumference. You will pass your tape round the fullness of her butt. Using the center of the butt or the fullness of the butt as a guide. Please turn around. All right. Now, That is the fullness of her butt right there. You will make sure your tape is passing through the center of the butt or the fullness of the butt, and turn the front, please. All right, and then you take your reading. Now, to make sure that this skirt circumference is not too tight and can comfortably pass in to her body, I'm going to be moving my tape from the position of the center of the butt. I'll move it downwards. Now, if it's too tight, I'm releasing my tape slightly until it can pass through. And then I'll take it upwards also until it can pass through freely. If you don't do this, it will be almost impossible for the clients to wear the skirt. The next measurement we are going to take is the hip depth. Is the hip depth. Now, placing your tape on the waistline, bring your tape right down to where you have the fullness of curve on the side. And for my model is 9 inches. That is the hip depth. Next measurement we're going to take is our desired length of skirt. How long do you want your skirt block to be? So placing the tape on the waistline, you run your tape down to your desired length. So if we want a knee length skirt, then we would have a skirt length of 26 inches. The final measurement we are going to take for our skirt block is the hem circumference. Remember, the length of our skirt is a knee length. That's our choice. So to measure the hem circumference, first and foremost, what's the hem? The hem is the edge of the garment. So the hem is the edge of the skirt, the length of the skirt, and then the edge of the skirt. So we are going to come down to our desired length of skirt and take the circumference round as our hem circumference. So down at the knee, I will pass my tape round like so. Now, if I take my reading here, it's going to be very impossible for my client or my model to function in this skirt because she won't be able to move her legs. So I'll just ask her to take a step forward, right, and hold it there. One step forward and hold it there. And then I will take the reading of my hem circumference, which is 31 inches for my model. Now, we need this hem circumference mostly when we are making a tapered skirt. A tapered or a pencil skirt, like most people like to call it. That's when you need the hem circumference. But if you want a straight skirts like the kind you see nuns wear, then you do not need the hem circumference. I'll explain this when I teach you how to draft.
Yeah.
So you're going to need the following measurement to make the sleeve block. We all know that the sleeve fits into the arms, right? The first measurement you're going to need is the biceps circumference. The biceps is where you have the fullness at the upper arm, the biggest muscle at the upper arm. That's the biceps. Now, in people who aren't too big, like my client, she's on the slim side, you can almost not see the difference between the biceps and other parts of the arm because she's not so big. But in plumpier or bigger models, you will see the difference between the biceps. Yeah, so you make sure you pass your tape through the fullest part of the arm. So you pass your tape round the bicep like so. Now you have to be conscious not to take the exact fit. What I mean is, don't make it too tight like we did. Don't make it too fitted like we did when we took the bust circumference, because this muscle can bulge. If my model carries a heavy bucket, for example, the muscle will become bulkier, right, than it is right now. So you want to make sure you free it up enough such that the tape can go down and come up like so. Just like that. Fitted, but not too tight, because if this muscle bulges and she doesn't have room for the muscle to breathe, the sleeve is going to tear or going to be too tight and uncomfortable, and you don't want that. Next measurement you're going to take is the elbow circumference. We all know where the elbow is. That's the elbow. So you will take your tape round the elbow. Now, when this is done, you ask your model or your client to arc the elbow like so, and then you take your reading. If your client or your model does not arc her elbow and you take a measurement with the hand straight down as it is, you would have an incorrect measurement or a sleeve that your client cannot function in, because if for any reason she has to lift her elbow, she would not have enough room, to take up the elbow in that position. So you would want to make sure when you take the measurement, you ask to arc the elbow like that, and then you take your reading. The next measurement we are going to take is the wrist circumference. Now, the wrist circumference, this is the position of the wrist. Right there, where you wear your wristwatch, that's the wrist. But you're not going to take the wrist circumference measurement right there at the wrist. You will take your wrist circumference measurement at the knuckle, just like I'm doing, at the knuckle. Why are we doing this? Because your sleeve needs to pass through the knuckle before it gets up to the wrist. So if you take the wrist circumference here, it's going to be too tiny or too small for your sleeve to pass through the knuckle before it gets to the wrist. So you have to take the knuckle circumference for the wrist circumference. I hope that is clear. And trust me, it's not going to be too big. However, if you want a perfectly fitted wrist circumference, you would have to use a stretchy fabric or an elastic fabric, something that would stretch when you're making passage through the knuckle before it gets to the wrist. Or you might need to fix the button, make a sleeve curve and fix the button so you can wear it comfortably and then button it up for it to be fitted at the wrist. The next measurement we are going to take is the elbow length. From the tip of the shoulder, right here, the acromion, you place your tape down to the elbow, and then you take your reading. That's the elbow length. And then your full sleeve length from the same position down to the wrist. This is the full length of your sleeve. We need the arm side depth. The arm side depth, like we did in the bodice block, is like the length of the armpit or the length of the armhole. So you place your tape from the edge of the shoulder down to the armpits. You might have to fix a reference so you can see indeed the base of the armpits to take your reading.
Thanks so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, share our content, leave a comment. I would always